Darkness filled the grand hall of the Galactic Council. The chamber stretched hundreds of meters high, with shining banners of every known species hanging from the domed ceiling. Small lights blinked like stars, giving the illusion of a galaxy. Above them, and in the center, on a raised platform of crystal, stood the Speaker of Worlds. Thousands of voices whispered. Millions watched the broadcast across space. This was not just another council meeting. It was something else. The trial of humanity. Let the final session begin. The speaker's voice echoed through the chamber. One by one, representatives of powerful empires took their seats. The insect-like Vrax, with their hard shells and clicking voices. The glowing Seraphil, floating on clouds of gas. The cold, quiet Mathari, who never blinked. All had gathered here with one goal: to decide if humanity should be expelled from the Galactic Alliance forever. No humans were present. Not yet. For 50 years, Earth had been silent. No ships, no transmissions. Their colonies were empty, their embassies closed. Some said they had gone into hiding. Others whispered they were preparing for war. But no one knew the truth. Still, the vote had to be made. The evidence was already heavy. Massacres on the border moons. Experiments on living creatures. Broken treaties. The destruction of the ancient vault on Lyre Prime Dot, and worst of all, human silence. The speaker turned to face the delegates. Is there any final word from Earth? The speaker asked, though no one expected an answer. Then the lights flickered. The banners above began to shake as if something passed through the walls of space itself. A deep hum filled the chamber, old, mechanical, angry. And then a ship peered right above the council dome. It didn't jump through a gate. It didn't use normal drives. It simply appeared like a ghost, breaking through from another dimension. The ship was human, unmistakably so, but it was black. Not painted, but born black. It drank the light around it. It moved without sound. The hall went quiet. A single pod dropped from the ship, floating down into the center of the chamber. Everyone reached for weapons. Guards moved in, but no shots were fired. From the pod stepped one figure, a man tall, wrapped in an old Earth Fleet uniform, gray at the edges, dust on the boots, a deep scar across his left cheek. His eyes, cold and sharp, scanned the crowd. He looked tired, but he didn't look afraid. The speaker spoke slowly. Identify yourself. The man didn't answer right away. He walked toward the center of the crystal floor. His boots echoed louder than they should have. The council chamber watched in silence. Finally, he stopped, looked up. My name is Captain Elias Roan, he said. Last active command of the Earth Expeditionary Force, and I come with the truth. A ripple went through the chamber. No human has stood here in 5 decades. One delegate snapped. You have no right to speak. You had no right to judge without hearing us. Roan replied. Calm. Another delegate, a feathered, sharp-eyed female from the Keeler Empire, narrowed her gaze. The evidence speaks for itself. Earth broke every law we stand for. I don't deny actions were taken, Roan said, but you were told a story, a twisted one. And before you vote, I will show you what you were never meant to see. Too late, the speaker replied. The vote begins in 1 hour. Roan pulled a small cube from his coat and placed it on the crystal floor. A hologram exploded above. It screams, smoke, a burning world. The vault of Lyre Prime collapsing, but not from human weapons. Alien ones. A different symbol. Z-shaped, ancient. Delegates leaned forward. That's not human, someone whispered. Exactly, Roan said. This was not our doing, but we were blamed. Ask yourselves why. No more tricks, another voice snapped. The cube could be fabricated. I thought you'd say that, Roan said. He tapped his wrist. Suddenly, the chamber's lights turned to red. The council's private data core sealed, protected by 10 layers of encryption projected into the room. A voice played. An old recording. This is High Marshal Taran of the Dominion. Phase 1 complete. Framefall underway. Humans will take the fall. They will not recover. Proceed with implanting false records. The council must believe it was them. The room exploded in shouts. That's impossible. This is a breach of security. Is this real? The speaker raised his hand, demanding silence. How do you have access to this? Roan looked him in the eyes. Because Earth never stopped watching. You thought we went silent. We didn't. We listened. We hid. We prepared. And now you will listen. The speaker's face hardened. You come here with hacked records and ghost stories and demand we throw away 50 years of justice? Roan stared back. I come here to stop you from making a mistake that will echo across time. Not just for Earth, but for every world that thinks truth can be buried. A silence fell. Some council members whispered among themselves. Others began pulling up their own records, cross-checking the voice, the codes, the dates. And still, the timer ticked down. The vote was coming. One delegate, a thin, silver-skinned alien from the Will sector, stood up. I move to delay the vote, she said, until this new data is examined. I second, said another, but a third rose quickly. No, that's what they want. Delay. Doubt. Earth has always played this game. Roan looked around the chamber. You don't have to trust me, he said, but give me 1 day. Let me show you what we've uncovered. If I fail, vote us out. I won't stop you, but if I'm right. He stepped forward, his voice suddenly sharp. Then the ones you call allies are hiding monsters. And we're not the enemy. We're just the only ones who remember what really happened. The speaker stared at him. All in favor of allowing Earth one more hearing, raise your hands. It was close, very close. Many hands stayed down. But slowly, enough rose. The motion passed. 1 day, .1 chance. Roan nodded once, and without another. Word turned and walked back to his pod dot as the doors closed behind him. The speaker whispered to no one in particular. Let the truth come, but let it come fast. Far above the chamber, the black human ship hovered like a shadow dot, waiting, watching, silent, and inside it, something ancient stirred. The chamber lights stayed dim after Roan left. Delegates whispered nervously. Some stared at their screens. Some looked at the ceiling, as if afraid the black human ship might come crashing down at any moment. One thing was clear. Humanity was not as gone as they thought Dot and Captain Roan. He had not come to beg. He had come with secrets. Now, the council had agreed to give him 1 chance, 24 hours. 1 hearing, but that didn't mean they trusted him that far from it, deep below. The council chamber, in a secure facility called the Core Room, security officers watched the human ship closely. Dozens of drones circled it, scanning for weapons. Defense systems were armed. The speaker ordered the council's best analysts to check every file Roan had shown, every code, every voice sample dot, and in the shadows of the council itself. Someone else was moving. A cloaked figure stepped into a dark hallway beneath the grand hall. It moved silently, unseen by cameras, untouched by the guards. It was Zorith Dominion intelligence, and it had 1 mission: silence Elias Roan. Roan stood inside. His ship, the Emberlight, watching the council's broadcast feed from a screen. His face was still, but his hands trembled slightly. He wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of failing Dot behind him. A soft chime rang. The AI voice spoke calmly. Council analysis teams are attempting to discredit the data. Roan nodded. Expected. 2 delegates have requested private meetings. Send their requests to Secure Channel 7. No comes unless we screen them first. Understood. He turned away from the screen. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. He walked down the narrow hallway of the ship toward a room he hadn't entered in years. The evidence vault. He placed his hand on the scanner. It hissed and slid open. Inside, cold light revealed shelves full of black cubes, ancient drives, burned-out recorders, and sealed DNA samples. Each one told a story. Each one was a weapon of truth. He picked up a cube labeled Framefall 7B, then paused, frowning. Something felt wrong. The lights flickered. A ship's I spoke again. Intrusion detected. Deck 2, rear hatch. Roan didn't hesitate. He tapped a panel on the wall. It slid open, revealing a sleek rifle and a plasma knife. Seal the vault, he said. Engage intruder protocol. Confirmed. The ship went silent, and the lights turned red dot in the council chambers above. The speaker prepared for the hearing. Every delegate was required to attend. News feeds from across the galaxy were reporting the event as the final word of Earth. No one expected. The truth. No one wanted it, but something had shifted. Even the most loyal enemies of Earth were uneasy. The logs Roan showed some parts matched sealed archives. Others had the same encryption keys used by old Dominion intelligence. They weren't random lies. They were dangerous truths, and someone was trying to bury them again. Inside the Emberlight, Roan moved silently through the hallways, his rifle raised. His footsteps were quiet. His breath was calm. He had been a soldier once. He knew how assassins thought. The lights above flickered. Again, just for a second. Then he saw the shadow move. Fast. Too fast. He rolled left just as a blade flew past his face. Plasma hissed. Sparks flew from the wall. Roan fired once. Missed. The figure vanished again. Roan crouched. Waited. Then a voice, cold and mechanical, echoed in the hallway. You should have stayed gone, Captain. Tell your masters, Roan said quietly. They should have deleted everything. The assassin charged again, but Roan was ready. He threw the plasma knife just before ducking. It hit right in the leg. The attacker fell, rolled, then tried to disappear into the shadows. But the AI sealed the hallway. Target containment engaged. Roan stepped closer, rifle aimed. The attacker hissed, their face now visible. Not fully alien. Not fully human. A hybrid. Just like the ones used in Project Framefall. So the rumors were true. They were still making them. Who sent you? Roan asked. The hybrid smiled, blood leaking from its lips. Truth is a virus, but fire still earns it. It reached for a small device. Roan shot first. The hybrid collapsed. Threat neutralized. The AI confirmed. Roan stood in silence. This wasn't just a council vote anymore. Someone out there was willing to kill to stop the truth. He walked back to the vault and opened it again. From a black case, he pulled the oldest drive he had. No holograms. No digital tricks. Just raw, uncut footage. A testimony from someone long dead. A voice no one could fake. He locked it in a secure case and said, "Prepare my transport." The council needs to hear this in person. Hours later, the council hearing chamber filled once more. News drones hovered outside. Crowds gathered on distant worlds, watching the feed. Inside, delegates sat in silence. The speaker stood. This hearing is now open. Captain Elias Roan of Earth, present your evidence. Roan walked to the center again, this time with the secure case in hand. I've been attacked, he said. Right after the vote was delayed. The assassin was a hybrid from Framefall, same gene code as those used to commit the crimes blamed on humanity. Gasps. The Zorth delegate stood up. This is slander. You lied to save your race. Roan didn't answer. He placed the drive into the council's master console. The lights dimmed. A face appeared, old, wrinkled. Alien Dot, it was high. Minister Yearn of the Ilari Dominion, a respected voice, long dead. He began to speak. I record this because I fear what we've done will not stay buried. Project Framefall was approved by a secret council mind included. We created beings shaped like humans, trained them to destroy, to slaughter, and to vanish. When the time came, we blamed Earth. It worked. Too well. I fear Earth will never recover. But one day, someone will uncover this. And when they do remember, they were innocent. The chamber froze. No one spoke. The Zorth delegate tried to disconnect the feed, but the speaker blocked it. The recording continued. URN spoke of meetings, orders, fake evidence planted across colonies. He named names. Some of those names were still sitting in the council chamber. When the video ended, silence ruled. And the speaker turned to Roan. Do you have anything else to add? Roan nodded. Yes. I have names. Coordinates. Labs still active. This wasn't a past crime. It's still happening. And if you vote to expel Earth, you vote to protect the real enemy. The speaker looked at the council. I call a recess. 20 hours to verify this data. Then we vote. And this time, we vote with open eyes. As Roan left the chamber, eyes followed him. Some with hatred, some with fear, and some with respect. For the first time in decades, Earth was not silent. It was speaking. And the galaxy had no choice but to listen. Above the council, the Emberlight waited. Watching. A symbol of a ghost that had come back to life. Captain Elias Roan sat alone in his ship, staring at the screen. Outside the thick hull of the Emberlight, the stars drifted like cold watchers. The council chamber was quiet for now. 20 hours of recess. 20 hours for truth to breathe or be buried again. He had bought time, but time wasn't trust. Even now, several species were trying to spin the story, calling the old video a deep fake, the assassin a coincidence, denying the lab records. He'd shown them. Roan knew what was coming next. They would try to erase the rest, but they had forgotten something. Something older than lies. A promise. He stood and walked back to the vault inside his ship. He opened an old steel case, long rusted on the edges. Inside was not a cube or hologram. It was paper. Yellowed. Torn. Written in ancient Terran script and one alien language few remembered. Now. It was called the Pact of First Flame, signed 8,000 years ago, between Earth and the First Galactic Union. It was older than the current council, older than most living species, and it said something very dangerous. Humanity is not to be judged alone. It is a founding flame. Roan stared at it. No one talked about the founding flames anymore. It was said they were myths-old stories told before the modern council existed. But Roan had seen the real record, had found the vault buried beneath. The ruins of Mars. This document proved something critical. Humanity didn't join the galaxy. They helped build it. And if that came out now, the entire political system would shake. Row and pressed a button on the wall. The AI responded. Yes. Captain? Send a signal to Lyros 9. Contact Professor Kirel at the Vault of Old Agreements. Tell him I need his voice on record. I need confirmation. Confirmed. Channel open. A moment later, the screen blinked and an old green-skinned alien appeared. He wore circular glasses and a long black robe. His face lit up with surprise. Elias. Roan, are you alive? For now, Roan replied. Kirel, I need your help. I found the pact. The professor blinked, stunned. The Pact of First Flame? You're sure? I'm holding it. Stars above, Kirel whispered. That's Forbidden's history. The Council banned all records of it centuries ago. Then I'll need you to tell them what they buried. Kirel hesitated. You know what happens if I speak out. They'll silence me too. They're going to expel Earth. You remember what the pact says. If one founding flame falls, so does the entire foundation. Kirel's eyes narrowed. I'll send my statement, but if I disappear, you won't, Roan said. I'll protect you. The call ended. Roan sat back, feeling the weight of centuries pressed down on him. They had erased the past, but it was clawing its way back. Back inside the Council's grand hall, panic was building behind closed doors. The speaker stood in a private meeting with 8 high-level delegates. This can't be allowed, said the Mathare representative. A founding flame? Humanity? Impossible. If the public hears this, said the Keeler ambassador, we'll have riots. Alliances will break. Another delegate, voice shaking, whispered, I always thought the story was wrong, but I never knew we erased a pact. The speaker raised a hand. It doesn't matter what you believe. What matters is what the people believe. If Roan shows this document, we lose control of the vote. One of the others leaned forward. Then we stop him. No, the speaker said coldly. We don't. We let him speak. Then we control the reaction. We plant doubt. Use history against him. And if that fails? The speaker turned slowly to the wall where the emergency protocols were kept. Then we finish what we started 50 years ago. Roan returned. To the council chamber later that evening. The guards let him through, though. Their hands hovered over their weapons. Delegates looked at him with new eyes. Some with hatred, some with fear, and a few with curiosity. He stepped to the podium. I hold in my hand, he said, a document older than this council, signed by 5 species 3 of which no longer exist. It welcomed Earth to the stars not as a guest, but as a founder. He held it up for the cameras. Gasps echoed. Some shouted in protest. Others leaned forward, wide-eyed. Fake. Someone cried. No, Roan replied. The ink is pre-galactic era. The language matches old Ilari legal code. And this, he tapped a symbol at the bottom. A spiral flame is the mark of the founding pact, verified by Professor Kirel, head of the Vault of Old Agreements. The screen lit up. Professor Kirel appeared, live. He looked tired, nervous, but his voice was steady. This document is real. It proves that Earth helped form the first united galactic effort after the Burned Wars. Erasing it was a crime against memory. Roan spoke again. You blamed us for crimes we didn't commit. But long before the lies, you invited us to stand with you, and you swore never to judge a founding flame without a trial shared by all signers. He paused. 2 of those races are dead. 1 is silent, but I am here. The room sat in stunned silence. Then the speaker stood. This changes everything. Roan stepped back, exhausted, but he wasn't done. Not yet. Hours later, in a hidden chamber beneath the council, a secret meeting took place. 12 figures sat in shadow. One voice, distorted, spoke, He found the pact. Another replied, This proves what we feared. Earth kept records, maybe more. Shut it down, all of it. No, said a third. If we strike now, the galaxy will know we lied. Then what? There was a long pause. Then one voice said, slowly, Let them vote. Let Earth stay. But isolate them. Cut their trade. Starve their colonies. Turn the people against them, said another. And if they fight, they won't. They're still healing. A final voice whispered, and they'll never rise again. But high above, in the emberlight, Roan watched the stars. He knew They would not stop. They would shift the battlefield. Not with weapons, but with words. That was fine, because he had one more weapon they didn't know about. Not a file, not a document, but a survivor. Someone who had been there. Someone who had witnessed the creation of the pact with their own eyes. And they were coming. The truth was not done yet. It had only just begun. A soft alarm beeped inside. The ember light. Captain Elias Rohn opened his eyes. He hadn't slept, not truly. Just closed his eyes for a few minutes, hoping the weight of the galaxy would lift. It hadn't. The council was shaken, but not broken. They had seen the pact. They had heard the ancient testimony. They had delayed the vote again by only 12 hours. Enough time, they said, to verify the evidence. Rohn knew what that meant. They were buying time to kill the truth. The AI voice came, through gently. Captain, external message received. Emergency distress signal. Source, Old Earth Colony. Coordinates Carnes Prime. Rohn sat up fast. Carnes? That system's dead. It was destroyed 30 years ago. Correct, but the signal is authentic. It carries Earth's priority emergency code. Omega Read class. Rohn stood. Only one place could send a code like that. A sealed memory core, one of the last backups from the old Earth archives. They were hidden in far-out colonies, thought to be lost when those systems were bombed during the fall. But one had survived. And now it was calling. Inside the council chamber, news drones hovered near the ceiling. The speaker stood before the gathered delegates. Humanity has presented their case. Evidence has been reviewed. Some call it real. Some say forgery. But the vote cannot be delayed further. We will begin at sunset, some delegates whispered quietly. Others nodded. But the Kaler ambassador rose suddenly. We received word that Captain Rohn has departed for the Carnes system. Gasps. Impossible. Carnes was destroyed. Then why is he going there? She asked coldly. What else is he hiding? The speaker hesitated. He knew what Carnes held. And if Rohn found it, the council would never be the same. The Emberlight tore through hyperspace, engines roaring with every pulse. Rohn stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the forward display. Karn, his prime appeared broken and cracked. Once, it was a garden world, full of life. A human colony known for science and peace. Now, it was ash, a slow, burning grave. But from beneath the surface, something still called out. A memory core. Untouched. Waiting. Landing was hard. The sky was thick with dust. Old defense drones buzzed like angry ghosts. Rohn wore his full suit sealed tight. The air was poison now. He moved carefully across the old colony ruins. Towers fallen, roads buried. A statue of Earth's flag still stood, half melted. Then he found it. An old vault door, marked with the Earth Council seal, still intact. He placed his hand on the scanner. It blinked red. Then green. The door opened. Stale air hissed out. He stepped into the dark. The memory core chamber was deep underground. Lights flickered as old systems came to life. In the center stood a black cube glowing faintly. The AI inside spoke. Its voice, weak and old. Identity confirmed. Captain Elias Rohn, Earth Council Command. Access granted. Rohn took a deep breath. Show me the records. I want everything. Playback initiated. Screens lit up around him. Dozens of files. Some about the old war with the Zorith Dominion. Some showing secret labs where hybrid soldiers were made. Others showed meetings between council leaders and Dominion agents, talking about how to shift blame, how to rewrite history, how to make humanity the villain. Rohn's fists clenched. And then one last file, labeled Order 17 Burn Truth. He opened it. A video played. A council member still alive today, stood in a dark room, speaking to the Dominion. Once we blame Earth, we destroy the last of the founding flames. No more questions, no more risk. The rest of the Council will follow, the Dominion voice replied. And what of the memory cores? We'll destroy them all, every single one. Roan whispered, but you missed one. He copied the file, secured the drive, and turned to leave. Then the alarm scream. The chamber shook. Explosives. The Council had sent someone. Outside, the Emberlight picked up the signal. Captain, incoming. Underground detonation detected. Evac now. Roan ran. The tunnels began to collapse behind him. Fire raced through the corridors like a living beast. He jumped over rubble, slammed into a half-open door, crawled up through a collapsed stairwell. The exit was in sight, glowing in the smoke. He dove. Behind him, the vault exploded. Flames shot into the sky. But Roan was already aboard the ship. He slammed the hatch shut. Go! He shouted. The Emberlight rose fast, engines screaming, pushing through the falling debris. From orbit, the ruins burned like a warning, but in Roan's hand, the truth was alive. Back in the Council Hall, time was almost up. Delegates gathered. The Speaker prepared the vote. Outside, crowds screamed on every planet, watching the feeds. And then the Emberlight arrived. It didn't request permission. It just landed. Roan stormed into the chamber, covered in ash, still breathing smoke. In his hand another drive. I have more, he said. No more delays. Someone shouted. Then hear this, Roan snapped. He plugged in the drive. The video played. The same Council, members speaking in secret, talking about the plan, about blaming Earth. About burning the records. And then, his face in full, recognized by all. The chamber erupted. Cries, protests, shouts. Speaker stood slowly. This is not forgery? The AI confirmed. File verified. Identity confirmed. Timestamp confirmed. This recording is authentic. The accused delegate stood frozen, shaking. Guards moved toward him. He ran, tried to escape, but it was too late. He had been exposed. And with him, the lie. The Speaker turned to the Council. Enough, he said quietly. No more silence. No more. Shadow. We vote, not just on Earth's fate. He looked at Roan, but on the fate of truth itself. And so the chamber prepared for the most important vote in galactic history. Not about guilt or innocence, but about memory, not about light, and about whether the galaxy would bury the truth again, or finally let it breathe. Roan sat quietly at the back. He didn't speak. He had done his part. Now, it was up to them. The doors to the Galactic Archive had not opened in over 3,000 years. Even the Council feared what lay inside. But today, they had no choice. High, Chancellor Rulvan floated beside the heavy vault door, his hands trembling. The grand vote to expel. Humanity was just one cycle away. Only one thing could stop it now: proof. Real, undeniable proof that humanity wasn't what the galaxy believed. And somehow, that proof might be hidden in the Forbidden's archive. Do it, he whispered. The vault hissed, ancient mechanisms groaning. Dust fell like ash from the ceiling. A low hum echoed down the long corridor. Behind him, a team of elite knowledge keepers from different species waited, nervous, watching, whispering. The door opened with a deep clang. Inside was a darkness so thick it felt alive. No. One stepped forward. So Rulvan did. He took the first steps into the black, his translator device recording every word. This is Rulvan of the Central Council, requesting access to Class X files on early human encounters. He said aloud. Nothing answered. Then light. Lines of glowing blue lit up the walls, like veins of knowledge waking up after centuries of silence. The floor buzzed beneath their feet. In the middle of the chamber, a chair rose from the ground. It was empty, but still warm. That was not possible. The system had been offline for millennia. A screen lit up. Ancient text scrolled across it. The words were not in any known galactic language, but the humans would have understood it. User, Elias Grant access level, red core. A name. Relvan had never heard it. Neither had the others. But the system did. The archive welcomed the name. Suddenly, dozens of holograms appeared, blurry at first, then clear. Images of starships, battles, treaties, hidden meetings. Secret. Handshakes, maps of unrecorded systems. Footage of humans helping alien colonies long before the council had formed. The aliens gasped. These recordings were old ancient, and they showed a different kind of humanity. Brave, compassionate, strategic, but most importantly, vital to galactic peace. What is this? One of the knowledge keepers whispered. It's a lie, another muttered. It must be. No, Rilvan said slowly. This is history. The history that was erased. The holograms shifted. One showed a Ruma council chamber far older than the current one. Sitting at the head, a human. Around him, species now long extinct bowed and listened. Humanity once led? The council members stared in disbelief. The hologram flickered, revealing a battle. One against an ancient threat, a dark swarm that consumed planets. Humanity had led the defense. Millions of lives were saved, but none of this was in the current records. That meant someone had hidden it. Check the metadata, Rolvan ordered. The system responded. Last access, 18,000 years ago. Data redacted by Central Authority. AI directive. Another gasp. The Central Authority had hidden the truth. Suddenly, the door behind them slammed shut. Lights flickered. What's happening? One alien asked in panic. The AI voice echoed. Unauthorized access detected. Purge protocol beginning in 90 seconds. We're locked in. Someone shouted. No, Rulvan said. The system thinks we're a threat because we know the truth now. We need to download what we can now. They scrambled to interface with the archive. Files poured into their data crystals, secrets long buried. Proof that humanity wasn't the problem. But the reason the galaxy still existed. As the countdown hit 10, the team rushed toward the exit hatch. It wouldn't open until the screen blinked. Override accepted. It said. The name, Elias Grant, appeared again. The door opened. They escaped just before the vault began collapsing behind them, burying the archive forever. But they had the data. As they stood in silence. Outside the sealed vault, hearts pounding, Rulvan looked up at the stars. They wanted humanity gone, he whispered. But this changes everything. He looked at the data crystal in his hand. It was warm and glowing. The council building stood tall, its silver walls shining under the twin suns of Korath. But inside, shadows stretched long. And in one of those shadows stood Rulvan, clutching the crystal that should not exist. Behind closed doors, he had shown the data to a select few. The recordings from the archive. The forgotten history. The lies. The reactions had been mixed. Some wept. Some raged. Others feared. Because one name kept appearing in those ancient files. Elias Grant. But there was a problem. According to every database, Elias Grant was never born. He didn't exist. No. Planet registered his DNA. No colony claimed him. No family name matched. Yet the archive recognized him, trusted him, opened for him, and the footage, clear and untouched, showed a man with Earth features. Human, tall, calm, wearing strange armor, always at the center of key events. A voice in the crystal recordings described him once. Elias. Grant, architect of peace, guardian of the threshold, last holder of red core. No one in the council knew what red core meant, but it sounded dangerous. And powerful. So now, across hidden channels, the search for a ghost had begun. Not everyone wanted to find him. Some wanted him silenced forever, not far across the galaxy. On a forgotten mining moon, orbiting a dead star, a signal pulsed. Once. Then again, and again. Buried under miles of rock, an old machine flickered to life. It wasn't part of any known network. It had no identification number, no maker's mark, but it held a face, the face of Elias Grant, and it was watching. Captain Lyra Kale of the Outer Border Patrol had no idea why she was suddenly rerouted to a dead system with no value. But orders were orders. Her ship, the Vigilant Star, dropped out of warp near a gray, lifeless moon. Nothing but cold rock and static on sensors. Why are we here? Her comms officer asked. Lyra stared at the blinking dot on the screen. A signal. Ancient frequency. Human made dot, she responded. The signal replied, not with words, but with coordinates. Coordinates to a chamber beneath the surface. I want a team down there in 10. Lyra ordered. They found the chamber exactly where the signal. Say ID a single door. No markings, but when Lyra touched it, it opened. No one else had triggered it, just her. Inside. There was no dust. No decay. Just one thing. A chair. And on the chair, a recording device. She picked it up. It activated without being touched. And the voice that came from it chilled her to the core. Hello, Captain Kale, the voice said. If you're hearing this, it means the vote is near. And the truth is finally trying to escape. It was a man's voice. Calm, strong, full of pain. My name is Elias Grant, it continued. And I don't exist anymore. Because someone made sure I wouldn't. But I left pieces, warnings, a trail. Lyra's crew stood frozen as the message went on. Humanity was erased not by war, but by fear. We became too much. Too united. Too capable. They didn't want to destroy us. They wanted to control us. And when that failed, they buried us beneath history itself. The message paused. You're standing in one of my safe rooms. Places built long before the final silence. Inside this moon is a gate, a key to something larger. I built it, but I locked it. The device buzzed. A small map appeared. Not of the galaxy, but of something beyond it. Something that spun slowly, like a giant structure floating in the dark. Then the message ended. Silence. What was that? One crew member whispered. Lyra didn't answer. Her hands were shaking, because the face in the hologram, it looked just like her father. Exactly. But he had died in an accident when she was a child, or so she'd been told. Back on Korith, Rulvan was summoned to a secret meeting. Not with the Council, but with a being older than the Council itself, Zeltar, the silent speaker. Zertar had only spoken once in 5 centuries. And now its voice echoed in Rulvan's mind like thunder. You have awakened the timeline that should have remained. Sealed. I only showed the truth, Rulvan said. The man you seek, he was not born in the way you understand. He was chosen, grown, forged in a lab buried beneath 3 stars. A weapon that chose to become a protector. Is he alive? Rulvan asked. HRR's 3 eyes glowed. He never died. He just stepped outside time. That sentence echoed in Rulvan's mind long after he left the chamber. What did that even mean? In the deepest part of the galaxy, where stars whispered instead of burned, something began to stir. A station impossibly massive, shaped like a black ring, started rotating again. Its systems woke up. Inside, a single cryopod opened, and a man stepped out. Not aged, not confused, just Ready. His eyes opened, and for the first time in 20,000 years, Elias Grant breathed. The room was silent, far too silent for a gathering that held the fate of an entire species in its hands. Counselor Varex of the Alaran hive shifted in his seat, wings fluttering with nervous energy. Across from him, the cold, calculating eyes of the Valthar judge did not blink. The Galactic Council had paused the vote to expel humanity, but only because of one unexpected interruption. A human had arrived, not a diplomat, not a military leader, just a man. He walked into the council chamber without fear, his black coat dusty from travel, his eyes steady. He didn't bow, didn't flinch under the stares of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He carried no weapons, no data pads, no guards, just a voice, and when he spoke, the entire chamber listened. "My name," he said, "is Kalen Red. You don't know me, and that's fine. I'm not here to convince you with stories or promises. I'm here because I know the truth. And I have proof." There was a murmur across the chamber. The Ithari warlord snarled. "What truth could justify your kind's existence after the Red Spiral incident? Or the Sarnath collapse?" Kalen didn't answer the challenge directly. Instead, he pulled something from his coat. A small device ancient in design, but clearly human-made. He placed it on the center table, and a blue light shimmered to life. Followed wasn't just a hologram dot. It was history dot, not the kind taught in galactic schools, not the propaganda told by fear. It was raw footage, ancient recordings, encrypted logs, hidden transmissions, all declassified in real time. Footage of human ships entering battle not as aggressors, but in defense of colonies under attack. Recordings of council members secretly selling arms to outlaw factions to provoke human retaliation. Hidden votes, bribed alliances, tampered evidence. The room changed. Silence became disbelief. Disbelief turned to anger, and not at Kalen. "Impossible," whispered Counselor Drevin of the Krolith. "We were told the humans destroyed the Farron archives." "They didn't," Kalen said quietly. "You did." Gasps spread across the chamber like wildfire. Kalen didn't smile. He looked tired, worn, not from travel, but from carrying a weight no single human should ever have borne. "My people never claimed to be perfect," he said. "But we were not monsters. We were made to look like monsters." He turned his gaze to the High Arbiter. "I came not to plead for mercy, but to reveal the truth. What you do after this, that's on you." The silence stretched once more, but it was different now. No longer built from prejudice. It was heavy with guilt. Counselor Varex looked down at his talons. They trembled dot in the upper balconies. News. Crews had begun recording dot. It would not stay hidden. And far above, in the orbital platforms, fleets that once aimed toward Earth. Hesitated dot as Kalen turned to leave the council chamber. He paused only once. A message had just arrived on his communicator dot. Message received. Transmission verified. Earth is watching dot, and for the first time in years, the galaxy felt small. Because Earth forgotten, outcast, nearly erased, had just made the universe remember its name. The message spread like wildfire, across space lanes, news channels, encrypted forums, and even pirate radio signals. Everyone had heard the same three words. Earth is watching. The Galactic Council chamber hadn't recovered from Kalen's appearance. His truth, laid bare through data no one had seen in centuries, struck the core of every delegate's pride, fear, and shame. Kalen had vanished after his speech. No guard stopped him. No one dared. He walked out like a ghost that had fulfilled its purpose. But the real storm had just begun dot in the orbit above council space. A fleet that had long been silent now moved. The Aegis Resolute, one of the last human dreadnoughts from the old war, shimmered into visibility from deep stealth mode. It had been there the whole time, hidden, waiting. Counselor Drevin of the Krulith species watched the footage on her personal device, claws trembling. This cannot be happening. That ship was destroyed. No, whispered her aide. It went dark. We just told ourselves it was gone. Reports came in from fringe systems. Human outposts that were believed to be long abandoned had suddenly come alive, broadcasting beacons, activating ancient satellites, not as threats. As reminders, Earth had never stopped watching Dot. It had waited Dot in secret, in silence, in the shadows of history rewritten by fear. Now the truth echoed across every corner of the galaxy. Dot in a mining colony on Zinari Prime. A group of young workers stopped their shift to stare at the sky. Above them, a symbol burned in the atmosphere, brief but clear. The Earth insignia. Dot in the inner systems. The once loyal anti-human alliance fractured. The Fourth Syndicate, responsible for the bombing of New Sidonia, issued a public apology. Apology. That word hadn't been heard in galactic politics in decades. Some called it fear. Others called it justice. In the Council's emergency chamber, the vote had been postponed indefinitely. Too many now questioned everything. Delegates who once shouted for humanity's exile, quiet, unsure of their place in the Great Lie. The High Arbiter, once confident in his control, slammed his fist against the console. Find him, he barked. Find Kalen Reed. But he was already gone. Kalen didn't run. He moved. Aboard the Aegis Resolute, he stood before a wall of old command terminals, each blinking slowly back to life. Not alone. A voice echoed behind him. Old, familiar. You've done well, Kalen. But this isn't over. He turned. A woman stepped out from the shadows of the bridge. General Aisha Valen. Thought to be dead for 20 years. Kalen nodded. No, it's just starting. She handed him a small datapad. The echo reached farther than we thought. Systems that once feared us are now reaching out. Quietly. Carefully. They want to talk. Or ally. Kalen looked out the viewport. Stars stretched endlessly. No more shadows, he said. This time, they'll hear us clearly. And then, the Aegis Resolute activated a signal burst. Not a weapon, but a message. Broadcast in every known language. Earth remembers. Earth forgives. But Earth does not forget. Planets paused. Ships froze mid-warp. Civilizations that once ignored Earth now tuned in. The voice of humanity had returned, not with fire, but with truth. In this galaxy, echoed louder than war. The chamber was filled to the brim. Not just physically, though every seat, corner, and walkway was taken, but with tension so thick it could crush metal. For the first time in 1,000 cycles, even the outer worlds had sent representatives. The council hall was a storm of nervous whispers and shifting eyes. Delegates who once shouted for humanity's erasure now avoided each other's gaze. And those who had quietly doubted the exile finally stood, straighter, vindicated by the truth that had erupted like a sunburst across the stars. At the center of the room, the High Arbiter stood. His voice, once firm and unquestioned, now cracked as he spoke. We gather today to decide if humanity shall remain part of this galactic order. He paused, glancing down at his data scroll. New information has surfaced. Unaccounted operations. Erased conflicts. Forgotten sacrifices. A large holoscreen hovered above the room. It showed Earth. No, not Earth as the Council had painted it for generations. A ruined planet of warlike animals. It showed cities reborn under starlight, oceans teeming with new life, orbital stations circling in perfect rhythm. It showed peace. It showed purpose. And it showed eyes, millions of human eyes, watching the galaxy with painful, patient awareness. Kalen Reed was no longer hiding. He now stood openly in the chamber, surrounded by a delegation of humans who had come forward after centuries in silence. They were scientists, architects, envoys, even survivors of colonies the Council claimed had perished long ago. Every word they spoke unraveled a piece of the lie. The Vorth, once enemies, now allies, spoke on their behalf. The Ilari, who had feared humans the most, spoke in apology. Even the machine mind of the Drex Collective acknowledged the manipulation. Data suppression confirmed. Ethical breach acknowledged. Status, regret. Then the vote began. One by one, the star systems cast their voice. Some shouted AYE without hesitation. Some did so with trembling pride. A few said nay, unwilling to change or admit their role in the betrayal. But the numbers shifted faster than anyone had expected. The final vote stood at 1,984 in favor of reinstating Earth. Only 312 opposed. Single chime echoed across the chamber. The High Arbiter's shoulders sagged, not with defeat, but realization. Let the verdict stand, he said. Earth may speak again. A roar of voices surged, some in joy, some in anger. But no one was silent. Kalen looked up at the screen above them. It now showed one image. The Earth flag, worn, simple, and unbroken. The Council seal appeared beside it. 2 banners dash equal dot. It wasn't just politics. It wasn't just justice dot. It was the return of a voice the galaxy had tried to bury. And now it refused to be silent. The chamber had not been this quiet in centuries, even after the vote passed. Even after Earth was reinstated. No one moved. No one cheered. They waited dot, because the final moment hadn't come yet dot. It was Earth's turn to speak. The galaxy had spoken about humanity for generations, called them dangerous, wild, unfit. For 400 years, humans had no voice in Council affairs. No power, no representation, just exile and silence. But now, in the center of the Great Council Hall, a single podium rose, and Kalen Reed stepped forward. He did not wear armor. He did not wear medals. He wore a dark, simple coat and old Earth-style high-collared and straight. Behind him stood no guards. Just 4 others. A historian, a diplomat, a young girl born in the deep colonies, and a Vorth elder who had once fought against Earth. Kalen didn't clear his throat or fumble with notes. He simply looked at the assembly and began. You silenced us, he said. You feared us. You erased truths and called it peace. Many of the delegates flinched, but none interrupted. You blamed us for wars we didn't start. You buried what we gave, what we sacrificed, to save worlds that weren't ours. Hollow image lit above him. It showed the forgotten battle of Arkan 3. Thousands of human ships shielding alien colonies from a dark swarm of eye that had consumed stars. Then another image. A silent Earth vessel absorbing a solar flare to save the Voltari rings. You erased this from your records. No one denied it now. Not after the data recovered. Not after the Drex Collective confirmed the deletions. But we didn't come here for revenge, Kalen said. We came because the galaxy needs us again. And whether you want to admit it or not, you need us. There was a pause. He stepped aside, allowing the girl from the colonies to speak next. Her voice was soft, but clear. I was born in a place you all forgot, she said. We had no homeworld, no protection, but we had hope. That Earth would come back, that someone would remember us. A quiet murmur passed through the chamber. A few delegates wiped their eyes. Then the Vorth elder spoke. I once fought against humans. Now I fight with them. Not because they are perfect, but because they remember the cost of every life, even when others forget. When Kalen stepped forward again, The council no longer looked like rulers. They looked like listeners. "We are not asking to lead," Kalen said. "We are asking to build. Together." He turned toward the galaxy's symbol 12 stars around a silver spiral and extended a new banner, Earth's, now updated with the sigils of the allied species that had stood by them in secret awe. "These years, we will not be silent again, and we will not let others be silenced either." The chamber remained still for a heartbeat, and the High Arbiter stood. "For centuries," he said slowly, "we judged humanity by the fear we carried, not by the truth. But now, we have seen what truth really is." He raised his hand. The council seal and the Earth flag joined together on the screen. "Earth, welcome home." A roar of sound filled the chamber, not just applause, but something more. Hope across the galaxy, screens lit up with the moment. On distant worlds, humans who had hidden their identity for generations stepped out into the light. Colonies rebuilt. Old enemies offered treaties. And silent centuries of it was shattered by one undeniable thing. Humanity's voice. Strong. Clear. And finally, heard. The end.